The Kick is for an adult audience. The Kick may contain certain material that may be unsuitable for sensitive ears. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey, I'm not saying they're stupid. I like China.
Well, $15 an hour, first of all, as we said, it's not enough of a wage. That is why we have to also talk about taxing the super wealthy and big corporations.
Our president doesn't have a clue. He's a bad negotiator.
Institutions across America over history feels offended. We should acknowledge that politically incorrect and being racist.
They literally just fired a white guy for being a white guy.
This is a blame the victim situation. We should be ridding the world of bigotry. We should be talking about that rather than blaming it on the victim who feels hurt.
You tell me, Namiki, whether we are training these kids to be little cupcakes who never have to encounter anything offensive, or whether it's better to educate them that there are offensive things in life, and you have to deal with that in life.
News, politics, and discussion. This is The Kick.
What you say, what you say, what you say, what? We'll come like a
There, I think I got it. Did I dial that one in correctly?
Like that one.
I think you got it.
All right. It is The Kick here on Longbox.FM, brought to you, of course, and as always, by Riley's Brewing.
Gracias, Riley's.
And so it is The Kick, and every week you can hit us up. You can be a part of it, 492-0450, sometimes Skype. We'll see about that tonight. Longbox.FM, and, of course, the Twitter. Longbox.FM on everything. You hit us up and talk to us. This is the station, Longbox.FM. It's got a lot going on, including podcasts from the Valley, the home for many, one of which, the Firefly Podcast. We are bringing in one of the members. You've seen him on the Dirty Daddy Podcast. Rob Weeks is a part of us tonight. How you doing, Rob?
Good. Thanks for having me.
No problem. I mean, you begged me enough, so I figured I'd do it.
What an asshole.
Well, now the Kick gets to get all up inside you, Rob. I mean, how does that feel?
Well, as long as you spit on it first.
Well, this show is not something that I can put together super well in planning. Week to week, you never know what's going to come up. I do know we have a few things to talk about tonight, and I'm going to lead this off with something that I posted this last week. Dylan Noble. I made a blog post. There's a website, dylanslaw.com. And the first time I saw it was late one night, I think after the Dirty Daddy Podcast, and I was 19 beers deep, and I saw that and I went, nah, this is a scam. This is someone trying to use his image. And sorry, Van, I spilled beer in that laptop. They may have issues.
Yeah, the H isn't working with the H.
Crap. So, anyways, I was looking at the website, and so I did a whole research study on it, and I started figuring out like where it was brought up or where it was set up or registered at, which was Panama. It was a hidden owner. A lot of the stuff on the site, like red flags just left and right. Finally, I talked to the lawyer, who the website had thrown an attachment to the lawyer, and asked him if he knew anything about it. He said he didn't. That he said outright, the family and him have nothing to do with this website. And it was at that point that I went ahead and launched this blog. And
Private Eye Dowdy over here.
Yeah, I did my journalistic integrity.
It's kind of exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, until 2 hours later.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, the owner, the person who put the website together, was on the phone with Dylan Noble's mom, letting me know that they hadn't told the lawyer yet, but that, yes, it was, in fact, legit.
Oops.
Yeah.
So the website wasn't put together by the same people that put together Hillary Clinton's campaign website.
No. I was wrong in that, but right in the idea. And this is one of the big things. Whenever you sign up to donate, when you're pulling on heartstrings, be careful. Do your research. Know that you're not just handing away your Social Security or your credit card number and things like place of employment, address of employment, all that, because they ask for a lot of information on that website. So a whiffed on that, but lesson to be learned as far as what you should look at on the internet before you go donating or just immediately signing up for something.
So because you have experience on that website, and I haven't actually checked it out yet, even post your blunder that occurred over this last week, what is it about this website that they're trying to accomplish? I mean, are they simply trying to raise funds or
It was
awareness?
a petition.
Okay.
The petition was not very well written out as far as what they're looking for. This was all about, it was a decently built website, 9 pages, and it has a lot about Dylan Noble and FAQ, a lot of that type of stuff. And they're asking, what they want is insight. They want all the stuff released publicly from the investigation. It's public knowledge, or supposed to be public record, and they want the names of the officers out. They want everything out in the open. Except, of course, I guess the reason the website came up was to balance the fact that they released the autopsy report that showed that he was had alcohol or he was drunk at the time.
Yeah.
And, it's like you can't have both. You can't hide that one and want the other one public. And then when it comes to the police officers, the names don't need to be public yet. Because with the tension involved with that, I'm sorry, you're putting targets on them. And maybe of the officers that were involved, the 2 to 4, whatever that were a part of it, maybe one did something wrong. You can't throw all 4 under the bus yet. There has to be some sort of setup to try them to understand what was going on. And we got to hope that happens legitimately. I know it's Fresno PD, and a lot of people have questions about how that works. So it's a no-win situation, I think, here, and it's just unfortunate.
Well, in retrospect, though, I remember now, just thinking about it the other day and then over these last couple of minutes, this occurred back in mid-June, and so now it really makes you think, how slow or how quickly are they really trying to figure this investigation out? And, with the situation being as publicly videotaped as it was, and you see multiple angles, you've got the body cam footage, which now everybody's seen, how much of this... how much time does it have to take for this investigation to actually come to a fruition close?
Well, here's another point. There's obviously other cases out there with body camera footage and stuff that is more suspect than this one. If I was on a jury and and the officers were defendants, I would have to vote not guilty from what I saw in the video.
Mm-hmm. It's a tough one. As we said, or as I said a couple weeks ago when we talked about this, Dylan shot with his actions. The first 2 shots, I think the police were in there. And a lot of people are going to argue every point on this, and this is not what I'm trying to go to. The first 2 shots happened because that's how the police department is trained. Shots 3 and 4 were the question marks. I think everyone's in the same boat with that one. The length of time between first and second and third and fourth, and the fact that he was on the ground, bleeding, being shot in the chest and torso, questionable. It's hard to determine in the moment, and maybe that's what the investigation is going to be about, those third and fourth shots, and let that carry out in our government or in court as it's supposed to be, as we've designed this, right? We got to hope for the best.
It's going to work out for the best for them.
Well,
whether they were a threat or not, for the sake of not going too deep, the system is set up to protect them.
Yeah.
In this particular case, I don't think they need that protection from the system. The question is whether or not Dylan was still a threat, and he wasn't complying, even though he was taking shots, but there was still non-compliance and fiddling with the waistband. And so it comes down to the jury deciding whether or not the cops thought he legitimately had something in his waistband, or if he was coddling wounds or something like that.
But this is where this whole situation, this whole scenario goes from, wrongdoing on one side to then completely flipping it around to wrongdoing on the other side. Because in the beginning, like you said, Dylan shot with his actions, and that's the first half of this whole scenario. And then the second half is, well, now the cops are wrong because look, you put a guy down with multiple shots. Yeah. He's on the ground. Yes, like you said, he's messing around in his waistband. But it's funny because I know that we've talked about this on the show prior, and I've also got friends who are EMTs, and they said in a realistic environment, and you see it on the camera, when somebody is shot, especially in the stomach or the chest or somewhere in the torso, no matter what, they're going to reach for where they were shot. Yeah, so there's speculation. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you're just going for the wound because that's where you were shot. You're like, if you get a bee sting on your hand, it's like, fuck, that hurts,
Well, here's the next
You're not
question.
Going to grab your head and be like, I got stung on my toe.
Here's the next thing to consider. If you were the officer that just fired one of the first 2 shots, Dylan's now on the ground, how long do you wait between deciding that you still think he has a gun? You've still been called out for reports of a guy with a gun making threats, and then this guy pulls out of the driveway as you pull up. So that being the case, the guy's now on the ground. He's got 2 shots in him. You fired one of them.
Yeah.
How long until you wait to decide that you're going to go and tackle him?
But that's all a part of training, isn't it, though, right?
Well, how long? What do you think it should be? You put yourself in their shoes now.
Well, no, I've got to put myself in their shoes, but what I was going to go on to say was that's all a part of their training, right? Because they have, I'm sure, without knowing their specific training in these situations, I'm sure that there's a designated time period where it's like, okay, look, you fire one shot, what do you give the guy, like a couple Mississippis? Is it like a drop back in football? I mean, what the hell exactly
I don't think there could be a cut and paste scenario.
That's what I was going to say. Is I think it's really just depends on the situation. It's not so much a time frame. Is he incapacitated, no longer a threat?
Right.
And once the officers judge that he's no longer a threat, that's when you subdue.
I don't
and
think
call EMT.
at any point after shot number 2, someone should have been able to walk over.
I think so too.
From an angle and check him or grab his hand that's reaching or something, and to de-escalate it immediately.
Yeah.
Get him cuffed and then get an ambulance.
And I see this entire thing as it's an issue of training for Fresno PD. Because really, above and beyond anything, the first 2 shots, in my opinion, shouldn't have been fired in the first place. It should have been non-lethal force. However, I don't think that Fresno PD is in the wrong for firing those first 2 shots according to their training.
Right.
The shots 3 and 4, those could have easily been taser shots.
Yeah.
I think at this point there's no one did anything right or wrong. It just was a shitty situation.
Here's one more thing to consider too. The cops are aware that there's body cameras on them, so they're aware that there's going to be video evidence after the fact. The way that they acted did not come across as panicked individuals who were just firing the gun willy-nilly. Like the first 2 shots were timed. They were precise. There was plenty of time in between. They were shouting their commands, but they weren't excited. They weren't jumping up and down. And when he didn't comply, they fired again. So that would lead me to believe that as far as policy is concerned, they probably went through the steps to decide, okay, we are justified to fire these last 2 shots because he is still not complying.
Right. It's like a mental checklist.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's right or wrong that way. The kid is dead, and that is horrible.
Loss of life is always sad.
But there are so many other questionable and obvious abuses of power that take place that I'm willing to jump on nonstop. This one is one that even though I want to, I can't. From what I see,
that's saying something.
Yeah, I'm not the first guy to jump on the defense of cops and state agents, but like I said, if I was on the jury for this one, I would have to acquit.
There's so much evidence out there for situations like this where you can see the police officers, even though they're being filmed, doing the obvious wrong thing. There's stuff where just the First Amendment tests, and I know, Kevin, you have to have seen those. The First Amendment tests where people go out and just to see what the cops will do when they open carry or when they film government facilities from a public street.
Right.
And the cops will come out there, and 90% of the time they're totally cool. They go, hey, what's up, buddy? What's your name? I don't have to give you my name.
Yeah.
No, you don't. What you doing? I don't have to tell you what I'm doing. No, you don't. Have a nice day. That's how you handle it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of cops that don't do that, and they get fired up.
Yeah.
These cops were not fired up. These cops were doing their jobs. Now, whether or not their training and their procedures are wrong, I think is in what's in question.
Yeah.
But in the end, like Chris said, he got himself shot by his own actions.
Right.
Actions have consequences, and in a world where nobody thinks your actions have consequences,
right,
it's a sad way for people to learn that.
Well, you're exactly right. I mean, the whole first part of that video, when I saw it, just to me, it was like when he just had that look on his face and he had his hand behind his back, and like you said, he was kind of testing the fences, as it were.
Yeah.
And it's like
he was being 19.
Yeah. Even if that wasn't his MO at the moment, I mean, it's still like there's a lack of accountability for your own actions, and all of a sudden you see how accountable he becomes.
Well, the fact that he was drunk when he got in his car,
right?
Period. Right there.
Yeah.
Just that was his action, and whether that had led to him going to jail or what it did lead to. Now, I would have much rather seen it lead to him getting pulled over and thrown in the drunk tank and had his license taken away.
Yeah.
Obviously, everyone would have preferred that.
Yeah.
But that's not how it went down through his actions, through the police training, through their actions, and it's just life is harsh.
Yeah.
What you got for us, Ben? Newsworthy.
So, everybody's favorite nuclear toupee, or toupee, as it were. Donald Trump.
Nuclear.
I mean, that guy is just like the third or fourth word in your vocabulary throughout this last year, next to bread, sex, and alcohol.
Nope, none of those.
No?
Just Trump.
Right on.
And bread.
Having a nice cold Trump.
So, among his more winning standpoints over these last couple days, he's actually he's unveiled a brand new refurbished tax plan, which his original one was slightly disastrous. But this one now actually just limits taxes on all forms of business down to 15% across the board, which, by all accounts, is trickle-down economics and would completely fuck the middle class and any small business owner after the fact.
I would disagree.
Ooh.
On the standpoint of?
Well, just the principle that cutting taxes destroys the middle class is actually quite the opposite. Cutting taxes grows the middle class because there's more money now in the hands of people who know how to use it effectively to grow their business, to hire more people, to grow the middle class. However, when you get involved with the government and all the other bullshit, it's probably a hack. But the principle behind it is the same as what I said.
Yeah, but don't you think it's attacking income growth at that same time? Because if you're not taxing the upper class any more than you are the middle class, and so now median income growth across the board, when you look at a graph chart of everything, median income growth basically either stays where it is or declines over time.
I think it's the opposite,
Well,
actually.
Go ahead.
I didn't know there was still a middle class.
I think it's upper poor is what it is now.
I'm lower poor, making about 18 grand a year. So there's definitely a class between me and Trump, and I call all of them middle class. That'd be these guys.
So middle class just depends on how low in the hole you are.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay,
but
how much debt you have.
You're saying, I got to make sure that I got you clear. You're saying that if a business is taxed only up to 15%, that's going to be bad.
Well, look, take the example of if you tax somebody, for example, they make $100,000 a year and you tax them at $15,000.
Okay.
Okay, now you take a guy who makes $30 million a year and tax him, and whatever that turns out to be. On this standpoint, I didn't really do the math.
4.5 million.
There you go.
Something like that. God damn.
Ding ding.
That's why we have Texas Instruments here.
He used Common Core.
Oh, shit.
No, I would have come up with 10 million and it would have felt good.
Did you carry the dot?
He did 7 times.
All right,
at minus 32 cats.
So 15,000 and 4.5 million.
So, but then everything's relative to the amount of income that you have,
Yes,
right?
which
but
is
when
now.
when you're a small business owner in your first year or 5 years or even in 10 years, I mean, if your max income, if your max revenue is $200,000 and you're just taxing everybody the same across the board, then you're going to see some sort of a decline for small business owners when they're getting taxed, even at a steady amount. If their business drops, if we run into a recession and they just keep getting taxed at 15%, millionaire corporate business owners aren't really going to feel that 15%.
You're talking about a static tax.
Do you know how much a small business owner in California is taxed right now?
Please.
Way more than...
It's like 30%.
Yeah.
Right.
More.
Yeah.
Right.
So cut that in half. How is that going to further erode small businesses?
I just think that
what you're talking
overall, I think that overall between businesses, I don't think we're going to see that big of an income growth.
See, what you're talking
for
about...
anybody that's being taxed.
Well, right now you've got corporate tax is right around 51%, 48 to 51%.
Right.
Imagine cutting that back down to 15%.
Right.
I don't know if it applies to the corporate tax. It's probably a lot of different loopholes, but you're talking about 35% of money that used to be just taking off the top of what the company made, now going back in to be able to produce more.
So, but if the corporate tax
only in one way. If there's two kind of owners there. They're the ones who just keep pocketing their profits year to year, padding their own bank, or those who reinvest in their own company. The people who reinvest, they can raise wages better to reward their employees and make them, where they're getting paid more at that job than they would somewhere else. They're buying the newer computers, like maybe a new laptop here, since I seem to have broken this one.
Yeah.
So the good business owners keep reinvesting.
Yeah, exactly. Good business owners, the ones that survive, keep reinvesting. The bad ones who pocket their money and don't invest into future growth, they go under.
Yeah,
so
they fail.
They don't matter anyway.
Unless
so we're talking about
huge.
the good ones.
Yeah.
So the good CEOs, the ones that are going to stay in business, when they get less money taken off the overhead, that money can be redistributed a lot of different ways without that company. Prices can simply drop because there's a lot less overhead to pay automatically.
I can't hear that word redistributed
say.
without thinking of Bernie.
I know, it's hard.
I didn't know you could even
hard.
say that word with a straight face.
Well, it's legit when it's by choice.
Yeah, most things are. But what you're saying is for a static tax rate that, say I make $100,000 in a year and I get 15% off of that $100,000. And if I drop down to $80,000 the next year, I'm not paying 15% of $100,000. I'm paying 15% of $80,000. So my margins are still the same.
Yeah, the ratio's the same.
So
the ratio's the same, but your revenue isn't the same.
Yeah, but your revenue is going to fluctuate no matter what. If you suck, your revenue drops. You go out of business, and if you don't, your revenue
nobody's
grows.
got a steady. No business owner's got a steady revenue that meets that same dollar amount every single year, unless you're cooking the books.
Well,
you know what I mean? So
I've
that's what I'm saying.
heard it once before, a couple times, maybe, but I can't remember. But the argument against the flat tax, what's wrong with that?
The problem with the flat tax is it's an amount, not a percentage, and it doesn't scale.
I thought it was a percentage.
Well, if you're talking about a
flat tax,
flat
tax is like paying a copay when you go to the doctor. It's like $25 every time.
Okay.
So no, flat tax means that's all you pay in taxes. Period. So it's 15% flat tax means that everything you pay, all taxes are 15% for.
And what this is a 15% cap. To where you might start off at $100,000 and you're only paying 7%. When you get up to $50 million, now you're paying 15%.
Yeah.
And if you get up to $300 million, $2 billion, you're still only paying 15%.
Right.
So what that really does is that helps people start small and grow, because they have, just like me, I pay nothing in taxes because I'm poor as hell.
No one should pay taxes.
This is why I was. Oh, not yet. This is why I didn't like the Bernie Sanders side of it, because they were talking about heavy taxes. Like the first big heavy hit was at $250,000. And I'm looking at my business here and what I want to do. I know my projections of what I can make here if I do it right. I'm not doing it right. But I could make that. I don't want to be punished for being successful.
Of course.
At that point, I would constantly make sure that you guys never, ever get paid and that I stay underneath that magic number.
Aside from loopholes, you're getting punished now if you grow to that. There's even just look at personal finances. Put business aside, just personal finances. When my dad gets a raise, he has to go to HR and say, you have to keep it under this amount, because if I get another % raise this year, I'm going to the next tax bracket, I'm losing 50 cents an hour. My dad just turned 60 last week, and he can't afford to lose 50 cents an hour when he's dumping half his check into 401k.
He literally can't afford a raise.
My girlfriend got a raise.
It's disgusting.
She just got a raise this last month, and she ended up making $5 more per check.
Yeah, because the rest of it
it's
went
like
to
nothing,
taxes.
because she hit another level.
Yeah,
Exactly.
There should be absolutely no progressive income tax. There should be no tax whatsoever, but since no one wants to jump on that ball yet, there should be the absolute minimum amount of taxes as humanly possible that people have to pay,
and
especially big businesses.
The biggest problem with the entire tax system isn't how we're doing it, it's where it's going. Nobody wants to talk about the actual problem. There is enough money going into the United States coffers for everyone to have free college, for everyone to have free health care, for everyone to have all the necessities
Impossible.
and great things.
Once it's free, it's very expensive.
Yes, see, and that's another problem. That's another problem with stuff like insurance. Like when I go to get a tooth pulled out, it costs me nothing because I'm on the POFO care, but it costs them $150, $200. If I went in and I said I don't have insurance, I'm going to pay cash, it would cost me $40 because they're charging the cash price versus the insurance price. And it's been proven over and over again that you can sell prescription drugs for a tenth to a quarter of the price of what they actually cost. And the reason is because the insurance companies are allowed to charge whatever they want when it comes to insurance, and that's why the money's disappearing. That's just another symptom of the problem of where the money is going.
Well, the insurance companies are subsidized to the government, so there is no free market price calculation in insurance whatsoever.
There's no free trade.
Yeah, nothing that costs what it is now, actually, that's not the actual cost.
No.
Because it's so rotted with subsidization and tax breaks and
which
all the other BS.
Which is a symptom of the corruption, and it's not actually the amount, and it's not actually how we're taxed. It's where it's going, because there's so many things that we've done. How many million went on a bad old agreement to Iran, and that could have done something else? Or first of all, we shouldn't have made that agreement in the first place.
500 million,
400 million, something.
400 million.
Yeah. We shouldn't have made that agreement when it was made, let alone let it stand as a debt to an enemy country for so long, because pay your friends back, pay your enemies faster.
Right.
Like, that's just stupid policy.
Well, that whole payment thing is a totally different thing, though.
And that's just following the bloodline of keep
breaking
your friends close and your enemies closer.
Exactly. So the whole thing has nothing to do with how much percent and this and that, and I agree with Kevin.
How great is it that they took pictures of it? And we're showing off. This is the money that you guys paid us. That's going to get some of you killed.
That's like when my dad loans me $200 to go fix my car, and then I text him a picture of me at the club the next day. What the hell?
Big middle finger.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What are you doing? And that's our government.
So that's Trump.
Trump.
And that's Trump in a nutshell.
No, this is Trump. Oh, never mind.
Right. All right, so I think the next point to hit on the scale of 1 to fuck this, Evan McMullen, for anybody who doesn't know, was a one-time chief policy director for House Republicans and a former CIA officer. Evan McMullen, who looks like the love child of Stewie from Family Guy and Harry Potter.
Oh, I got to see this now.
Please pull that up. He is now the independent candidate for the POTUS.
Does it matter?
He apparently could not stand on the sidelines any longer and decided that he was going to
I'm the new independent.
all 5 hairs on his head.
It took him this long?
Yeah.
Yeah. See,
well, and he's backed by the group Better for America, and they are staunch.
Isn't it? You're a little late in the game.
Yeah,
Right.
didn't
To
you work
throw
for
your
the
hat
Central
in.
Intelligence Agency? That doesn't seem very
If you work for the CIA and you're not Snowden, I mean...
Oh, I would have voted for Snowden all day.
Yeah.
Bring that guy up.
Everybody talks about the Green Party and how they throw their candidate in every 4 years. Talk about the Independent Party. They're just nowhere to be seen. And the one guy with a chance played the game.
Right.
He swapped over to the Democrat side, and look what his own party did for him.
Yeah.
I mean, don't play the game.
Right.
Break the game, do it your own way. And that's what he should have done, and that's why... I don't endorse anybody that's running, but I have to vote Johnson. And being in California, my vote doesn't matter anyways.
You weren't lying, Ben.
Whoa. That's like a really bad Peyton Manning Photoshop.
I can
It's
see
just
that.
terrible is what it is.
It's terrible.
So yeah, third party candidate here.
So third party
joke.
candidate, and the question is, does it really fucking matter at this point?
No, not at all.
Well, no,
we went through this
not
last
now.
week.
Not now.
No.
Right.
If he had to come out a year
ago.
I think for the spectacle's sake, though, I would love to just see this guy give one campaign speech.
I'd love to see him be allowed on TV for something. Like Gary Johnson, they're finally interviewing
I've seen
him.
a lot of these memes lately because you still got the Bernie hopefuls or the Johnson hopefuls that are posting things like, tell me third party candidate vote is useless, and a picture of Lincoln. Because I guess using that meme, I didn't even bother to look it up. That maybe he was a third party guy. I was like, okay,
sure he was.
Yeah.
It
It's
doesn't
easier to
work.
win third party when there's 1,800 people in the country.
Yeah,
right.
And 9 of them can vote.
some of these, yeah.
4 of them can read.
Yeah.
And
I'm
they're
sorry,
the ones running.
it is a wasted vote. I know people don't want to hear that, but it is. And then Kevin, with your point, I know what you're going to say. All votes are wasted votes.
Thank you.
So one thing I did want to point out about this little tidbit of information is the fact that he's backed by the group Better for America, and on their website they actually go out to say that they say in fact a majority of Americans, including 90% of millennials, want to see an independent candidate run. First of all, Vanna, we're going to go here for just a second. But it's no offense to you because you are much more educated than most of the millennials that are out there.
Ooh,
I will say this.
a throwdown.
Most millennials do not know what the hell an independent candidate is because all they see is Trump on the Republican side. They see Hillary on the Democrat side, and they know red and blue. They don't know anything else.
A bigger problem is the fact that they buy the party line that's being fed to you by the Democrats and Republicans that an independent
Exactly.
candidate doesn't matter.
Exactly.
And the only reason an independent candidate can't be elected is because everyone believes it. That's it.
Are you guys surprised that government schools worked? That's exactly what it's designed to do.
I homeschool my kids.
It's
And
beautiful.
going along with that, my biggest bitch with this is they say that including 90% of millennials. I mean, did they literally just go out and do a poll across like 25,000 elementary and middle schools?
Basically, all you got to
Tumblr
do
poll.
is put a poll on Tumblr, and then you're going to get 99% of millennials.
Yeah.
Sorry, Vanna.
I know. I jump on millennials all the time here because, and canvassing the room. I'm the old man in the room, and I was get off my lawn when I was 23. I don't think millennials are stupid. I think millennials are what all of us were when we were that age.
Well, no,
where you
it's
had
not-
passion, that you had your nuts full of knowledge, and you wanted to just jizz all over the world with it.
No, it's different now.
Every generation is different.
And
but
look at
every
what they
generation
have.
Has a core.
Look what millennials have though for their tools to learn.
And they don't because, I mean, look, you see things like Tinder, you see things like Tumblr, you see Snapchat, you see filters on Snapchat.
You need to be quicker, faster, attention grabbing, and people buy into memes. They think that Wikipedia is an encyclopedia.
It's right.
When we went through school,
Well, because
we
the
still
last part of
had-
that is pedia.
Yeah.
Come on.
When we went to school, we still had a vestige of teachers that actually cared to teach. And a lot of their career was based on how well they did up until a certain time.
I'd like to refute that point with the fact that I dropped out of school at 13 because my teacher literally would not teach me.
That and you liked weed.
I had a better teacher.
Not then.
I guess I was lucky enough to have a good string of teachers.
I went to school in Reedley, so.
Oh, well, then. Case closed.
Sorry, Ridley.
Kevin's our silver spoon guy here.
Oh, I must be.
Yeah, Hoover.
It must be. Yeah, Hoover. Hoover of all places.
No, I graduated a few years before you at Hoover, and there was a handful. I think one of my best teachers was one who failed me and made me come back in summer school. She was awesome, though. But there not that many great teachers out there anymore and that's a whole other discussion.
See, the problem is you were a child that was left behind. You missed the policy. If you had been in the policy, you would have never been.
It definitely took a village.
What's truly amazing is that so many people, at least in America, have literally all the information that the world has ever compiled in one location in the palm of their hands, and we are left with a generation that is actually literally like IQ has been dropping steadily over the last generation
with millennials,
or so.
I'll give defense some at one point. I think there's a lot of interest, and I do believe this is also it's a political year, so everybody gets amped up on a political year. But there's a lot of interest and a lot of throwing your head against the wall out of anger and vain, and so there's some passion behind it. It's just the direction they don't necessarily know, because there's a lot of listening to your friends too. And when you're 20, 21, and you have one person in your group of friends that you hate talking to at every party, except now you're involved in politics, so now whatever they're saying right now
That's
and what
your
they've
view.
been saying, you already agree it's the right thing.
Yeah.
So you get that one loud Bernie guy, and everybody's a part of it.
But I think it comes to a point now, and like you said, everybody gets amped up in the political in the campaign years. But I think a lot of it now, it's like I just talked to a lot of people, and in conversations, you just get that sense of apathy now because nobody it's coming down to it, and it's like we've already seen all the shit, we've already been through all of this spectacle, and it's like everybody that I've talked to recently within the last few weeks is just it's an overall sense of apathy, not for lack of wanting to learn and wanting to know more, but just because we're so goddamn inundated with everything that's going on.
But they're still going to vote, right?
Oh, of course they are.
Of course they are.
14% of them will.
Of course they are.
Yeah, well, 14%'s better than 5%?
No, that's
No,
almost
it's
three
not.
times as worse.
Not yet, Kevin.
That's
Not
the second
yet.
half.
Getting there.
That's where me and you get to get into it.
Beautiful.
Hey, tell me, when we're talking about bad things going out there, bad sources of information.
So
you
go
got,
listen
you
to
got
Firebird
Fox
Podcast.
News?
So, speaking...
man.
Speaking of the Kool-Aid, the tainted Kool-Aid brand of news information,
Are we drinking it or not?
I think so. It's in the Riley's Brewing. Hopefully nobody
All of
took
them?
any that's on the top shelf. I hit all mine on the bottom.
Yeah, that was...
So anyway, Fox News, Roger Ailes, former Fox CEO, who was obviously, everybody knows by now, was accused of sexually harassing Gretchen Carlson, which everybody loves stretching Gretchen. He was accused of sexual harassment, and now they're talking about Ailes has been out of the light, but apparently now there are Fox News employees, personalities, producers who fear that their phones have been tapped. And go figure if you're working for the Murdochs, and
Yeah, didn't that happen just a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
The whole thing?
The whole planet.
Yeah, and he got his hand slapped by the global government going, that was bad.
Right.
Don't do that anymore.
Don't do that.
Right.
And you made a great villain in a James Bond movie.
So wait, Fox News, who has gone 24/7 for the past 4 or 6 years, yelling about everyone else, wiretapping everyone else,
Yes.
and getting pissed off about it,
Right.
is going, well, we're the goose, not the gander.
Exactly. Yeah. Now we're
I'm
literally
so shocked.
We're literally getting the black dildo in the ass. That is us now. Instead of us talking about how it's done to everybody else, now they are getting it. And they talked about clicks that were on the line and interference that you could hear when you talk on the phone. And sometimes, I even think about it too. When I hear my phone echo in a certain
Yep.
way, I'm like, they're listening.
You hear your voice echo?
Patriot Act. Fuck you guys.
That's when you start yelling bomb and hi, Jack, how you doing? Gonna go
Right.
see the president?
Right.
See, I'm okay with anybody listening to my conversations because it's just meandering and boring, and I feel bad for them.
That's why
Yeah.
I just text.
It's like working a sex line. I'm sorry. Your job just sucks, man. I'm sorry.
If sex was ever that uninteresting.
Hi.
And
Me.
Yeah, you've never been in bed with me. Otherwise, it'd be pretty uninteresting.
Closing this out, we'll just I had to throw after these last couple weeks, and you talk about that apathy, I had to throw in something that was pretty interesting and probably a little bit comical. But apparently, there was a party on Saturday night in San Francisco's Mission District, and there were edible marijuana treats that were offered at this party, and I'm going to leave out I'm going to leave out what kind of party this was for just a moment, because this is what's going to really blow your mind.
LGBT swingers party.
Exactly. No, that would be the first thing you'd think, but this works to the opposite end of the spectrum.
Jerry
almost.
Falwell Memorial Party.
Exactly.
Cis straight white guy key party.
Jim Jones celebration anniversary.
Oh, I was that close.
No. In fact, no, I was throwing that in the hat, even though I know what it is. It's not that.
Oh, damn.
So let's put it out there. These things look like the Lifesavers gummies, right? They're literally gummy candies that apparently were laced with certain levels of THC.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
They were probably 20 milligrams. Usually that's about...
Were you there?
I wish.
Is that because the posers...
She was the one that brought the gummies.
Yeah.
So,
invite me in.
And of all places for this to go down, 19 people took edible fucking marijuana candies at a quinceañera.
Oh,
Tight.
God.
I'm not... Like, is
it
that
was in
surprising,
the
or-
enchiladas.
Well, a quinceañera. Okay, so
have you been to one?
I have, and
They
I
sacrificed
know
the oldest lady in the room to make room for the younger,
It sounds
more
like there was
prettier
19
one.
people that weren't drunk and dancing.
Yeah.
and I'm wondering if 19 of those people were all 15 or younger.
Yeah, that's what I'm guessing.
So it's a rave.
Well, and here's the thing. So the news report says that they were taken to the hospital with symptoms ranging from rapid heart rate and dilated pupils to nausea, lethargy, and confusion.
And gigglies.
Like me after a flight of stairs.
Right. And I'm thinking to myself, that's me after a mile run, or 5 years ago when I was still actually smoking weed, and lethargy, dizziness.
Like, was one of the symptoms
No
asking
idea
for
what you're
Funyuns?
talking about.
Sometimes edibles wreck you, man.
Sorry, we've got to go to our resident medical professional here.
It is, in my professional opinion, that they overreacted to the THC content that was in the gummies. Usually, most gummies have a 20 milligram content of THC or cannabis oil, and they probably took more than one, I'm assuming.
My recommendation for a cure is to put on Pink Floyd.
The Dark Side of the Moon.
I second that.
And just chill for a little while.
And grab some fun.
Would you say that those who did go to the hospital, this would probably describe it?
I think I'm having an overdose of this, so is my wife.
Overdose of what?
Marijuana. I don't know if it had something in it. Can you please send rescue?
Do you guys have fever or anything?
No, I think we're dying.
Okay, how much did you guys have?
I don't know. We made brownies, and I think we're dead. Time is going by really, 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 really slow.
Wow.
Well, then you got a while until you die, buddy.
Yeah, that sounds accurate. I think we're
It's
dead.
like, we're in bullet time, so
Right.
we're going to go ahead and make another batch, because
Seriously.
apparently we have an extra hour to live.
See, the problem with edibles is that if you make them too good, you're only supposed to have a certain amount. So if they taste good, you're prone to overeat.
That's why you got to use the bitter chocolate instead of the sweet stuff. That way, like, after 1.5 brownies,
or
you slow down.
just make 2 batches of brownies.
Or don't put half a dozen in your coat pockets and walk around the party high for no reason that I would know this.
Yeah, bad idea.
So now, Vanna, you were saying that the recommended dosage in your professional opinion is 20 milligrams.
Well, that's typically what most gummies are, 20 milligrams.
20 milligrams.
Yeah.
So they're safe to say, because they said the problem because it was a catering company that apparently brought these edibles in, and so
What?
I don't know. The Bay Area is doing it up.
didn't know we
company is
legalized
that?
for recreation yet.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
no, Prop
we need a
215,
sponsor.
that's not...
Yeah, that's
not
medical.
But there are delivery companies where licensed
medical.
right
Yeah.
for medical. So that's probably what this is tied into. Even though this article doesn't get
They
in
got
that
Oprah
depth.
going out handing everyone a card.
Well,
You get a card,
Yeah,
you get a
pretty
card,
much.
you get a card.
Everybody gets a card.
Technically, they're recommendations.
I think basically all you have to do is have one person at the party with the 215 card.
Probably.
Call their delivery guy and then share.
Right.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, but that's not what you're supposed to
So can I
The
show up at a
sharing
party
part.
with a
Sharing,
whole
yeah.
bunch of Norco that was prescribed to me and then share?
Yes, you
Sure.
can.
I'm having a party at my house tomorrow after work because my back is killing me.
Okay.
I have
You're
cramps.
invited.
I'll charge a $15 entry fee to your house.
Yes, you pay me $15 and bring
No,
Norco.
you're getting it all wrong.
I never was good at business.
All right, so that's the wrap up for the weekly stories, and I think Chris has a little something for us for 1984.
No, I do not.
No?
But, no,
You have let us down, Winston.
Yeah, he did, but it was censored.
Actually, what you're hearing right now is the edited version of the live show, so it already happened. Hillary told me I had to take it away. Hillary,
still alive?
You know, I got something for that.
She sent us an email.
And she told you to delete it
I can pull this. I don't have the story right in front of my face, but I did see something on Facebook, which, okay, I'm sorry, I'm an asshole right away. But involving Hillary, the emails going out, the WikiLeaks, all the stuff that were sketchy about her campaign and what's going on. 5 people in a 2-week span that were mentioned in those emails are now mysteriously dead.
Committed suicide because they were depressed.
Yes. They climbed a mountain far, far away and shot themselves in the face.
That happens a lot. People do that all the time.
They shot themselves in the face in the mountain.
There's 5. Yeah, there's 5 people who have died who were mentioned in the Hillary Clinton WikiLeaks in a 2-week span. And if anybody wants to support Hillary, I know this is something I saw on Facebook, and you can tinfoil me. But there's enough history with her. There's a new book that I know that's just been out by a guy old Secret Service back when Bill was running it. A lot of questions. Bodies rolled up in rugs, Oval Office rugs, things like that. You should do a little research, and you can write everyone off. But when people disappear at a high rate that have been attached, you got a question. You're worried about Trump with the nukes.
It's very important to remember to vote in November.
Not yet, Kevin.
Oh gosh.
Not
All
yet.
I don't think people
Tinfoil
got
hats
the sarcasm
them
that time.
So
I like it.
tell you what, we're
put it
gonna
all wet.
take a quick break. We're gonna come back. We're gonna talk about last week's episode.
Yep.
This is I know why we got people tuned in tonight. We're going to talk about last week's episode, and I think Kevin's going to give him more time to talk. I know that Rob's got questions, and I have actually a list of questions that came in through email.
Excellent.
Yeah, so we'll be dealing with that. This is The Kick here on Longbox.FM. We'll be right back. You're listening to The Kick on Longbox.FM. Okay, The Kick. There we are. We're back. What's going on, everybody? It's The Kick here, Longbox.FM, brought to you, of course, and always, Rally's Brewing.
There it is.
So, I know tonight we're later in the show now, and we haven't really gotten into it. Kevin, you had a couple moments that you were going to say something, and we kind of freeze. You wait for it. Last week's show was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It went against everything that I was going for. Now, for the backside, for anyone that's listening, Kevin actually, I took all of Tuesday off. I sat and played Minecraft or watched Arrow, and I was just like, phone, go away. I don't care. My brain needs to recoup. Wednesday, Kevin, you came over about 3:30 right after you got off of work, and we talked for about an hour and a half about everything that went down, what we want from the show.
Yeah.
I think my take on everything, the reason why I was so upset, and I will say right off the bat, I was a big problem in the show. Your brother who was on, him and I, we've known each other since we were in kindergarten, and your brother and I are oil and water when it comes to politics.
Yeah.
We both grown to a certain way, a certain mindset, and it was just grinding. And him coming on, there was even more history behind that I don't need to get into. But it kind of knew, the show was amped from the very start. And I challenged and I went off and I fought. The whole point for me on The Kick, and Kevin, you have a part in this too. The whole point for me on The Kick is discussion. How to get everybody's views in the room, how to push forward and do something that creates better. And I think this is the part that really bothered me too with last week. There was no solutions, ideals to get past things. It was doom and gloom, everybody's dead, this is coming, and then we got like in 2 weeks, it's all going down. And I hate that. I want something positive come out of whatever we're doing. If it's nothing that we can come up with during the show, at least we can all stand up, shake hands, take a picture, and be happy because it was civil discussion. Last week we got a sad picture at the end of the night with my mom and Ben and me because that's all it was left because it was way too heated.
Did get a little thick, yes.
Your end of things, your idea of the show.
Oh, as far as what I want out of the show?
Yeah, out of the kick in general.
Last week's show was almost exactly what I want out of the show. Minus people hating each other. What I want out of the show is an ability to challenge narratives and challenge things that people have been taught, challenge propaganda, challenge the stuff that really matters, the stuff that nobody else really talks about, or a very, very small, slim minority of people actually talk about. The stuff that when you do talk about it, you get very used to the constant character attacks and the bullshit quasi-arguments the other side comes up with. And I wanted to be able to cut through that. And so, yeah, last week did a lot of that. They're very strong stances to be made, and there's lines in the sand that have to be drawn.
Now, last week, though, your brother said a lot of things that I know you agree with.
Mm-hmm.
That matches kind of your view on a lot of stuff.
Yep.
But as we talked about the Wednesday after, there's a version of tact and delivery that matters. And I listening back to the show, I still heard your points going on. Alan and the way he delivered, it was just immediately grating to me, and it was like, shield up, let's go. Again, I didn't do my part right. But I want it to be something that's more discussion across the table and get everybody's views.
And we got that. We definitely got that. Because
well,
Ben opened up
on
and started
opposite
speaking.
day.
I don't think everybody's views were had that night.
Well, now,
no, but it wasn't because of Alan was commandeering or rampaging through anybody's speech. Alan was actually quite professional, if not, I'll say the second most professional because I was here. But I went back through and I listened to the show now twice, and in defense of the show and myself and my brother, I took some notes, as you know that I do, and I figured some stuff out, and I feel bad that you've already admitted that you were wrong because I really wanted to attack you, man. I was ready to just.
This was your
apart.
moment.
This was, but you. Well moved. Nice play.
Yeah, no, I'm doing 2 retractions tonight. Dylan Noble and now last week.
Yeah.
This is a shitty show. I'm looking forward to next week.
Yeah. Now, I do want to give you the chance to save face, and I won't go through all the stats because they're nasty. It's not just you, but it is a pretty big proportion of you that kind of took the show to go the heated route that it did. But I do feel, and if you feel that I'm thorough in my due diligence, then I feel that you do owe an apology to Alan and myself and the listeners.
Well, I'll throw it out to the listeners, and I'll throw it out to you.
I need all 3, or I'll go into
your
this.
brother and I have a whole thing. But again, what happened on the show wasn't about the show. That was your brother and I went. When you talk about his listening, we talked about this. The audio, you can hear him being quiet. If you watch the video, you see he was actively acting like a dick with his mannerisms.
Also not true.
His
I looked for
dismissiveness.
Wait, you want third party? You want a listener? I watched the entire video. I listened to the entire podcast, so I've listened to it twice also. And yeah, there's fault on all sides, and there were great points made on all sides. But I said it on Facebook, and I'll say it here: your brother does not belong behind a mic. You belong behind a mic because you can make the salient points that the two of you stand for in a civil way. Your brother can't. And it's that simple. You can see his mannerisms, as Chris was saying, but above and beyond that, the expressions on his face were the most dismissive things I've seen since I told my dad I was going to be a rock star.
Now again, I'm going to counter this. And this isn't just biased because he's family. This is me trying to be as objective as I can.
Okay.
At the point that you're saying, I do know a time that he had to pee and he was fiddling quite a bit. There was another point where he had his hand in his face twice, and it was after Ben had spoken about the 5th or 6th time about solutions and trying to find solutions and drearing on. This was towards the end of the show, at which point there was already a pretty huge slew of character attacks from mostly Dowdy onto him.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
so to say that he doesn't have this patience and this ability is incorrect. He is actually much more focused and dedicated in his ability. I mean, he's a teacher. You know, this is his entire field is conveying messages.
So you referenced those two things. The last half hour of the show is a wash to me, because once you get your emotions that riled up, nothing's going to come from it. You know what I mean?
And that was a big point when we came back from the break.
But Alan was actually the second most, because I'm here, second most calm person who was actively trying to have a discussion based on natural rules that you get to speak, and you're not going to get interrupted, and you can convey your message, and you can do that without getting the kind of character attacks that we were getting. And I'm telling you, man.
Well, like I said, there was some other backstory into all that.
I know.
I don't need to get into this. This is just two people who refuse to agree on something, and you know me, I try to be as passive as I can about a lot of things. Your brother just knows how to get under my skin, and you acknowledge he's really good at knowing how to get under your skin, and it became a battle between him and me.
Do you
and Ben and Vanna and you all just happen to be here, and then later my mom, to break us up.
Do you acknowledge that you unfairly aggressed on him?
Yes, and that had to do with his role in what he was doing here that night, and how I feel about respect in my place and past conversations. That it was all right, you want to do this, I'll go too.
Do you feel that he instigated it?
I guess I can't honestly fully say he instigated. He helped amp it up, though. He didn't back anything down.
Correct.
He allowed the anger to build, and he threw down, because your brother loves that battle.
To Kevin's point, though, and to your point also, Chris, is you're the host, and you've already said that you were in the wrong there.
Oh, yeah, no, I blew it.
So, I mean,
I've been doing good as a moderator on a lot of things, but this is 3 decades of knowing somebody and 3 decades of those moments.
Yeah,
I know how
it's
that is.
very hard to separate.
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah, that kind of history is hard to get around, and like you said, you're a moderator, and so that was surprising to me, because after everything was said and done, it was like to finally actually hear you like that really just kind of shocked the shit out of me, because I'm like, you've always been that calm and collected person, Kevin. I know you are too, seeing you on the DDPs and everything else. So I mean, I get that. As far as me going on just for 1 second,
are you going to go on?
I really want to go on for 1 second here, Kevin, because all I want to say is this. What I was really trying to get at was, where are the solutions? Because I get where you guys stand, and I get the counterpoints that Chris was trying to make, and that's all I was trying to interject into that side of things was, what are the solutions beyond where the world ends? If it comes down to it, where's day zero? What do we do from there?
Yeah, and this is another reason Alan had his hand in his head, because you asked the same question 7 times.
I never got the answer.
We kept trying to answer you when we kept getting interrupted.
I'll agree with Ben on that there wasn't an answer, but it wasn't the environment wasn't allowing that.
Exactly. There was an answer. It's just not one anybody wants to hear. Currently, well, I'm not going to go back into it. Listen to last week's show.
Definitely listen to last week's show. As somebody who agrees with 90% of what you guys were saying, I can say it was presented in the worst way possible. Because
that's fine.
I agree with 90% of what you guys said. The 10% is the thing that Ben called giving up, and we can talk about that in a little bit if you want to. But the way it was presented, I mean, you say that your purpose on the show is to talk about things that people don't want to talk about. But if you want to talk about things that people don't typically want to talk about, you have to talk about them in a way that people want to listen to them. Mm-hmm. And the problem that your brother had, and he stated it plainly, I don't give a shit if anyone listens. I'll do a podcast in front of 0. How does that help anyone? Then he's shouting into the void.
Great presentation of discussion that Kevin just said that happened.
Yeah, he literally said, "I am fully willing and able and happy with shouting into the void."
I don't want to make this an attack.
I'll explain it with this.
It's not an attack, honey. It's just a fact.
No, I know.
And that's the thing.
I was there. I seen it.
I seen
him and I shared the same exact sentiment, and here's why: the scope of the importance of the message outweighs the number of people it needs to reach. What's important is that the message is out there.
That's the opposite of the truth. Because the scope of the importance of the message dictates how many people it should reach, because the more important your message is, the more people you need to get it to, because if a comet's coming down to Earth tomorrow and we all need to get the fuck down into our bunkers, you need to get as many people to listen to you as possible, whatever it takes.
What if they choose not to listen?
Then that's their problem.
Exactly.
But if they choose not to listen because you're an asshole that sits there with his arms folded, then when asked...
What if there's a comet in the sky coming right at him?
Well, then they're just dumb.
Exactly.
But
so don't waste your time on it.
But what I'm saying is, if they choose not to... Or if the point's being made, and they choose not to listen, if the point's being made in a civil manner, and they choose not to listen, that's on them. You're doing everything you can do to get the message out. You're doing your part, right?
Yeah.
If what you're doing is when someone says, okay, things are heated right now, so I'm going to back off, and I'm going to let you talk. You give me the answer that you want to give me. And this is what your brother did. Well, I don't even want to. I mean, you know, like you just
kind of looks like it.
Yeah, this was again
That's
after
accurate.
an hour and a half into the show.
Yeah,
though.
and I understand that.
Yeah,
but
okay.
something led to that. Chris has admitted to his part of it. But I mean, Alan's not here. Obviously, you're speaking by proxy for him. But all you're doing is defending him. And the problem is there's equal blame to go around. The only people I saw with no blame, Vanna had absolutely no blame because she couldn't get a word in edgewise. Ben,
I tried. For those of you who want to know, I tried.
Ben
kind of
had
no, I legit tried.
No, she definitely.
Well,
did.
no,
I raised my hand.
but
a
this
few
is
points,
this again
yeah.
comes on me too. Ben and Vanna, I actually didn't give a shit about them last week.
Yeah.
There became a point after the
Thanks.
break where it was like I don't care what they say and how they say it.
Because
this is
it was
me
about
and him.
I'm not giving
and
you.
him.
I'm not paying you back for this.
No, hold on, no. I knew it was.
Is there another one? I'll
This
eat it.
was a war of words between me and Alan.
Yeah,
and,
it became-
and it didn't matter. I should have just said, "Everybody go home." I got this now.
Here's a good question.
It became personal, and it should have never become personal.
I went home because
Here's a question
I
for
take
Rob.
responsibility.
What was it? And we're going to say the first half of the show, because the second half of the show, Alan spoke for a total of 2 minutes and 22 seconds.
Because he refused to speak.
Incorrect. Absolutely incorrect. He did not refuse to speak until the very end.
Okay.
He was trying to get words in, and Dowdy would continually
I'll
cover
see
over
that.
him.
That is true. I'll see that. But when given the opportunity, he refused because he let his emotions overcome him.
Hating all this,
No,
by the way.
Same thing Dowdy did. He let his emotions overcome him. But Alan did the exact same thing.
Alan was being asked to defend himself on a character attack that was unwarranted.
Okay.
This is why he said, no, I'm not going to respond to that.
Okay, and that's fine. But then he stuck around afterwards.
Yeah, waiting for another chance to say something.
But why?
Because he still had more stuff to say.
You could see it in his mannerisms. You could see
But
it.
okay, we're going too deep on all that.
Anyways, yeah.
His mannerisms is expressing the frustration of not being able to conduct a professional...
How long did he talk in the first half?
For a total of 11 minutes and 30 seconds. Second to me at 12 minutes. Ben clocked in at 9.5. Dowdy at just under 6. And then Vanna for 13 seconds.
So
you tell me you're very busy all the time. I'm calling you bullshit.
This is what I'm busy with.
So the two of you dominated the conversation for the first half of the conversation, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
And the way that Chris took it after that domination of the conversation was that, okay, it's on. Chris is bad, right?
But what was it that we were doing that was dominating the conversation? At what point were we not allowing others to speak?
For me, again, there was
Yes, really.
there was a history that going into the show, not just decades,
You
but
let it get personal.
a couple weeks leading up to, and then for me, I wanted him to speak. I was hoping he would just get it out of his system. Maybe there's a certain amount of respect as far as what I'm hoping for here. And someone trying to take a stage was what I was picking up, and that's where I got mad, and I was like, okay, you do your thing, and I'm going to come back.
Here's a better question: what was it that Alan said that turned people away?
He didn't want to give any options aside from the option that he said, which is give up. That was
When
the
did he
biggest-
say give up?
That was the biggest. Oh no! See, he said, "I'm not giving up," and so did you.
Yeah,
but that's a lie.
How so?
You're giving up on the current system as it stands. You never made the qualification of I'm not giving up on the future. I'm giving up on what we have now.
We made that specific qualification. They, both Ben and Dowdy, mostly misrepresented and strawman all of our arguments pretty much the rest of the night. I seriously have
that one.
Well, I mean, I've got a list of 4 pages deep of all the different character attacks and ad hominems and.
I was upset with the
misrepresentations.
talking down feel that I got with the this is the truth, I know it, and you're all gonna fucking thank me later.
Yeah.
That I got from Alan with the hands up, like angry black woman in a movie, earring. He might as well have been pulling earrings off. That type of thing was kind of like, okay, man, me trying to have a conversation is going out the window when you start throwing down like y'all gonna thank me like you're my big savior. this is not conducive
It's
to
the
a positive
condescension.
solution or coming up with ideas. You're giving me the doom and gloom. Everything's going to go to hell.
See, you're misrepresenting again.
But this is what I was picking up from the conversation.
But see, this is when we have to change our conversations to defending our characters. When in reality, we shouldn't have to. We should expect a level of professionalism where we can talk about
what
the
he's got
topics.
is an interpretation of what you guys are saying, and my part of it for you guys last week was the fact that what you believe is what you believe, but it's not that there are any other options. That is the only option. This is exactly what's going to work.
See, I've had the same conversation with Kevin that we had on the show last week many times.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a good conversation.
Yeah.
The added factor, your brother came in, and the discussion, the way of discussion, grinded me immediately.
This is because of how you behave as you react to him.
Well,
I'm telling you, man. Like it's hard to look objectively, but
let's not go too deep now. On we don't have to
saying
psychoanalyze.
that, but we keep trekking through the Everfee forest.
I want to talk about. I got some questions that came from you and Alan, the way you guys view things.
Okay.
From a listener. Want to know, to help understand how your world, your view, whatever, would work.
Mm-hmm.
First one was, how would we choose a representative for any level of government if we cannot vote, since voting is an act of violence?
Well, then there would be no government to vote for a representative.
And everything would fall apart because as soon as somebody became powerful, they would take over. The fact that there is nothing set in place would mean that your life was in their hands, because you don't need a government to have a domination of force. What did you call it? Monopoly
Initiation.
of force.
Yeah, monopolization of the use of force.
You do not need a government to have a monopoly of force. All you need is evil men with evil intentions,
Of
and
course.
those are never going to go away.
Yeah. Those men are also going to gravitate to where the power is being conglomerated, which is government.
And if the government's not there, they're going to make their own.
That's fine, but that'll be a small pact versus other independent people who can at least form some kind of immediate defense against. I mean, how big of a group can sustain itself on pure force?
Yeah, but that's speculation on size, though, isn't it?
The warlords.
It sure is, but how large of a group can sustain itself on pure force outside of a state-sanctioned, complete fucking organized?
Again, speculation of size. How long is a piece of Chinese string, Kevin? Because when you're talking about a group
No,
of
what I'm saying
individuals
is that
five people,
when plunder becomes less valuable than trade, then people will trade. So force works for a while, but it's very unsustainable to feed entirely on robbing other people.
What's better to get someone to give you their skills, which is what you're talking about with trade,
mm-hmm.
which I agree with. Trade is more valuable than money.
Yeah.
But if I can make 100 people work for me for free
mm-hmm.
to pick my cotton fields,
how do you do that?
Through force.
Well,
and how do I do that?
We did it through government taxation and funding.
But once that ends, how did we do it? How do we do it after?
Why did it end?
How did we do it before? Because we decided as a people through our government to end it.
Yeah.
So the government was useful.
And then what happened after that? The cotton gin was invented, and greatly increased the amount of efficiency that we can produce cotton out of.
Yeah, as soon as you hit a technological break, things get easier.
Yeah,
so industrialization had a big factor to play in this, but then again,
the free market did.
Okay,
because now
so
there was
free
a need to produce a lot of cotton.
Free market tempering industrialization to that end and creating things like the cotton gin, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but then again, what you're talking about is you're replacing all those people that were used to pick those cotton fields, and now you put the cotton gin in place.
Mm-hmm.
So now you've lessened the use of force through industrialization.
Through the free market.
Oh, again.
No,
it's saying the same thing in two different ways.
Well, no, let's just say the free market because it's the free market.
Fine.
The free market invented the cotton gin. The free market sold it to the people who produced
free
cotton.
market gave way to industrialization. I agree with you.
Industrialization is just the refinement of oil and energy and so forth and
it
machinery
allowed
and
for
so
it.
forth.
It allowed for it. Can we say that? Okay.
But that was also the free market that produced that industrialization.
Okay, so the free market, therefore, reduced the use of force, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, moving on.
Question.
I'm sorry.
I have a question.
Yes. I was like, fight me, Ben.
But we agree.
Okay.
This is also a fight club afterwards.
Yeah.
Dude,
we don't talk
seriously,
about
there's
it.
one fucking rule.
Yeah, thanks, Vanna.
Actually, I'm not a member. They haven't allowed women in yet. That's why I'm voting for Hillary.
Because you'd be... Oh.
Damn, that's incredibly sexist.
I know. They're
Marla
not
Singer.
exactly...
All right.
Go ahead.
Don't call me a tumor.
Another question that came on. You said that roads would be built by private enterprise.
Yes.
We talked about a neighborhood agreeing to pool their money and build a street. However, one neighbor refuses to pay his share.
Yes.
You said, okay, fine. I think you know where this is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
He can't use the road. But what happens if he does use the road?
There would be a contract initiated prior to the road being built, and whoever wants to use it would sign into that contract.
And if I don't give a shit about your government construct of a contract,
well, it's not government.
Then what do I do?
Voluntary between everybody.
You've created a conglomeration of people of like minds to, what do you call that? Control the behavior of another person.
No, this person still has a choice.
They have a choice.
If he's
going to
say, "I'm never going to use your road." You say, "Fine." If you do,
and if he
you're
does,
under contract that.
And if he does use the road and he doesn't sign the contract because he refuses to be beholden to any sort of government, whether official or otherwise, what do you do with him?
Good question.
Let him use the road?
I don't force him.
I
don't force everyone else to pay taxes to a system.
So
to
you
build
let
it for
him use the road?
No.
What do you do?
I don't know.
So he can't use the
So
road.
you're like the man, right?
See, you're not going
to let him use
hold
the
on.
road. You're like the man.
I don't want to shut you down.
Hold on.
No, come on.
This is one of those holes in your thoughts that I feel like there's got to be a fill here, because I know you don't. Your view of police, the policing system, you don't like. Your view of taxes, that there should be zero taxes. And this goes into the road thing, where we all pitch in together and we make the road.
Yeah,
it takes a
village.
village.
But if someone doesn't want to use it, who polices them? Who finds them? Who does whatever?
Good question.
But you don't have an answer for that.
No,
and that's the problem.
But I do have a reason. I don't have an answer for it.
And what is that?
My reason is I wouldn't force everyone else to pay a tax to have the state come in and pave the road so that this guy can use it.
Okay, that's fine.
Philosophically,
but he still gets to use it.
No, okay, look, in this metaphor, yes, but philosophically, taxes are a compulsory act that you have to pay,
which is awesome. I agree with that. But
no, you got to let me finish here.
Okay,
so this compulsory act is not something you get to decide. Therefore, taxes are theft. If you can find a way to crack that, excellent, go for it. But I'm basing this argument off of that. Since those taxes that are paying for the roads and all the other shit it pays for is based on theft, it doesn't matter how we make all the rest of the world happen after we're not forcing each other to pay for it. As long as we're not forcing each other to pay for it, that's where we start. We start on the philosophical moral of not forcing people.
But see, we actually have a tweet.
Go ahead.
A live tweet from Hanzo Haskashi, and it's just a quote from the Federalist Papers, which is pretty relevant to what's going on. And the quote is just, "If men were angels, men would not need government."
Yes. And men are not angels. Evil men will always exist, so your form of life will never exist.
Except capitalism is the only system that not only understands that humans aren't altruistic, but then benefits the ones that are the most altruistic.
Yeah, but capitalism is the system by which the world is pretty much divided at this point, with goods and things being distributed.
I think if you get that world you just talked about, where we decide there's zero taxes, and we can bring it down to our community and what we're doing. We built this road. Now you have to decide what to do with this person who uses it. You have to figure out how to make this road go in. I think you're taxing people without calling it a tax. You're just saying we're all
also
pooling.
In this world, if you paid for that road, it's your property, and he's not allowed on your property.
Why? And what are you going to do when he goes on it?
Because you have property rights, and you can have him trespass.
Who gives you the property rights?
It's your road. You paid for it.
What do you mean, man?
How did you determine?
Paid for whoever provided the road for you. Unless
can
you did
you
it yourself.
own land in your world?
Absolutely.
Wait,
okay.
Kevin, hold on.
Who
really
do you buy
quick.
it from?
You don't buy it from. You claim it and box it in, and it's fucking yours.
I claim yours.
No, you can't do that. It's already
Why
mine.
not?
Because it's mine.
What
we'll
if
come and take it.
What
and
if
find
I
out
have,
what I do?
What if I have 50 people and you have 30?
Well,
we have guns and you have knives.
Transgress, and hopefully the other people that also adhere to the private property rights will decide that they don't want to put up with your tyranny.
And guess what? You die, I win.
Yeah,
Bottom
except
line.
I have other people that I'm hopefully is succumbing to not succumbing, subscribing to the same ideology I do, who are very willing to put themselves at risk temporarily to make sure that your tyranny doesn't continue to grow.
Yes, it feels like you're awesome, either, but men are not angels.
You're on a borderline.
That's fine.
It's either you're in a 1970s hipster group on a land, all free swinging and having a good time.
Stop misrepresenting my shit.
Well, no,
he's
I'm talking about the
describing
feel. The feel here. You either feel like that group who wants everything to be good, man,
peace and harmony,
or you're the group that just gets run over by the bad ones.
Because if there's no force and nobody's like taking shit from each other, then you guys are coexisting in a harmonious way.
I say this line a lot.
Sounds terrible.
It sounds terrible, but tell me if
Here's
I'm
a
wrong.
question for every single one of you. Do any of you condone violence being used against me?
Yes.
Oh, here we go
You
again.
do. I do.
Why?
Under certain circumstances, if you come and try and steal my land, I'm going to kill you.
So if I initiate force against you,
yes,
you condone violence against me.
Yes, I do.
I agree with that.
I also
do you agree with violence being condoned against? Do you condone violence being used against me without me initiating force?
Yes, depending on what you have done, which may or may not be a forceful act.
See, that's a good answer because honestly, it has to be objective.
Yes.
Anybody in their right mind is going to say that
So-
violence, the use of force,
Which is
is
what-
objective.
which
in
is
its
what
nature.
laws
Hold on, guys, stop. Kevin, can I say...
No,
You're
I have to finish my goddamn thought first that somebody asked me 10 fucking minutes ago. Otherwise, we're going to do the same thing shit we
All
did
right.
last week.
Go ahead.
Because I've been attacked now a couple times.
No, and this is not what I'm
I've
trying
been
to
told
do.
I've got hippie ideals and shit like this. I try to get into my
No,
goddamn
I'm trying to
logic,
figure
and
out
I get cracked every
the
single time.
balance here, man.
No, I'm trying to explain the
let me take away the hippie
behind.
thing. It almost feels like Wild Wild West as far as you make your own ways. That's what you want, right? New land, new property, new like you are you, and you get to condone or govern yourself. Is that what it is?
Do you have the right to initiate force against anyone?
If being threatened, if someone comes
Then
onto
you're not
your property.
initiating. Do you have a right to initiate force against anybody?
I guess no.
Does anybody have a right to initiate?
Apparently we all do if we have the
Thank you,
right to
Vanna,
vote
for
on Monday.
Thank you, Vanna, for interrupting my logic once again.
no.
I'm just
Thank you,
reiterating your
Vanna,
own
for
logic. That is
interrupting
your
my
own logic,
once
yo.
again.
Okay, no.
I'm sorry,
Dowdy.
it's just
Thank you,
you don't
Dana,
give
for
anybody a chance to
interrupting my-
speak,
No,
so
you're
anything
right.
is
Have a
interrupting.
good night, everybody.
No. Hold on.
It's 9 o'clock. I got to go anyway. I'm fucking done. Everything we went through last week is the same shit we're going through right now. Because nobody can take the fucking time to relax and let somebody speak.
So sit down and
Fuck it.
speak.
I got to go. It's 9.
Ah.
I gotta go.
8:57.
Let's try again next week.
Vanna, come on.
Have a good night, everyone.
All right. We'll try this again next week.
Well, I thought I was coming here for intelligent conversation. Apparently, I was coming here for fucking emotions.
No,
and a storm out.
I get his point because
I was just trying to
do
reiterate
too.
his fact.
No,
He was
guys,
saying that it was Monday all
I
over
get
again.
his
As soon as
point.
he brought that violence up again, it became Monday all over again times 100.
The problem
when he
is,
brought up the
if
violence.
you can't sit there and defend what you have to say against a valid question, which is I posed.
No,
I posed
but
one
he-
question.
let me open this up with saying that Kevin is someone who feels his
Attacked all the
ideals
time.
are
Maybe
yes,
this is the wrong place,
He's
then.
used to being attacked.
Okay, and that's fine. If
Like
he's used
probably
to
the
it, he
reason
should
I
be
can't
able
get a
to deal with
millennial
it.
to come in here because a millennial
I feel
feels like
attacked
that-
all the time, and I just take it.
But you're one. I can't get anyone to come in. Kevin is somebody who is used to taking the hit.
Notice how I'm waiting? I'm someone who gets very furious when in the middle of trying to explain something, I get interrupted over and over and over again. Last week's stats, I got interrupted the most and interrupted those
And last
the
week's
least.
stats, I
Hey,
talked
look,
the least.
Another fucking
I'm trying to
example.
defend myself. As you bring
Yeah,
stats
good. I
all
was in
relevant
the
to
middle of my
yourself. You are
goddamn
so
point.
all. I know that
So
the kick
all
has
blah,
your
blah,
name
blah,
on
blah,
it,
blah, blah,
but you
blah,
treat it.
blah.
This
I
is
can't
just
give
your
you
show.
any
This is your
respect in the
soapbox.
middle of my goddamn talk.
This is
Are
not
you
what we
fucking
do.
kidding
Yeah,
me?
you're having a hard time keeping millennials for a
Jesus
reason.
fucking Christ. That's it. Don't interrupt people when they're talking. This show is supposed to be about bringing professionalism.
Let people talk.
All right.
Don't come back.
We got some work to do.
Really, I didn't want to today, but I did because I know how to take it.
Well, we got multiple points going across the board here with everybody with the different age groups, the different mindsets. And when we actually get into deep shit, like what Kevin wants to talk about, it's deep but his ideals are very embedded into
The
it.
wrong place for him then, because this is supposed to be discussion.
But you know,
and it
Vanna,
has his name on
you
it.
and I have
Like,
had
I'm
the
sorry,
same
but
battles.
I like Wednesday, but maybe I'm not going to be here anymore, dude. This
But-
is ridiculous. I'm not going to get yelled at when I talked for less than 13 seconds. He wants to bring the facts out. That was the facts. He doesn't bring it into discussion. This entire night I haven't talked because there is no point to talk. So I'm sorry if I have to interrupt to get my point out, but twice during this show I have been referenced and poked at for not talking last week. And then when I do try to talk, this is what happens. It's whatever, dude.
It's part of a buildup. It's
IDC.
politics,
I'm a millennial.
personal views are they're embedded in you, and it's hard to have anyone talk anything against you because it's like last week, Vanna, you and I had a talk outside when I was talking after the show, and I said some of the stuff you say drives me absolutely nuts.
Same.
But you and I can shake hands at the end of the night. Trying to talk a hardcore Christian, trying to talk to a Muslim, are going to have issues.
Yeah.
can you shake hands and talk?
See, that's the thing. I have Satanist friends. I have Christian friends. I have Muslim friends. I have Buddhist friends. I'm a Christian. I don't subscribe to any denomination, but I'm a Christian. But I don't do that, and I don't do that. So,
but I get the idea.
I see where they're both coming from.
I'm just done, dude. I'm just fed up from last week. And then for him to yell at me and tell me not to come back. And last week, if you saw the episode,
I did.
One of his first words to me was, shut up.
Yeah.
And I spoke 13 seconds. I mean, come on, you're the host. You want discussion? You don't even...
Last week was a shit show, right? And today started decent.
Not really. It's because people just work silent and just
let's finish this up in a positive thing. I think we can get everyone back next week.
I'd like to get Kevin back in tonight.
Jerry,
one of the hardest things here is we have multiple views, multiple generations, multiple ideals, and to actually sit and talk. And what's happening tonight, like what just happened tonight, what happened last week, I hate that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're also talking very real. Like Vanna, you're someone I know. If I mention race, you bristle at it. Because
I'm sorry, maybe it's because I'm the only minority in this room.
But see, it's something that you are used to. You're not supposed to talk about it. Like, it's got to be better. But no one wants to talk about it. I want to talk about it. I want to address it because the only way I think that going through divorces and shit, the only way you get better is you talk, right? You have to get all that stuff out. We're all doing this, just us here in this room. We're all very unimportant people in the grand scheme of things, and yet our ideal. The idea of what we're trying to do is to talk and get somewhere. Last week, I take blame on that one. This week, I think we still have a hangover from last week.
I think I found a scapegoat Pokemon.
Good.
Right.
Capture me. I'll take the heat. I'm glad to do it. I hope we can do better in the future. I think everybody's going to take a Tuesday off again. Rob, give us
going to Six Flags again.
Give us some Firefly love.
Yeah, Rob's got a good podcast. You guys check him out, Firefly Podcast.
You guys can go to @Firefly Podcast on Twitter and check us out there. You can go to fireflypodcast.wordpress.com. Follow me @ZombieSlag on Twitter. I don't really do the Facebook very much. We are not a political show. There is not a lot of yelling and stuff. Any disagreements that we do have happened in the background where you don't have to see them, and when the curtain rises, the show is ready to go. Might not be the greatest show in the world, but I think it's pretty fucking cool.
You're a nerd.
Yeah, we're a bunch of nerds. We basically play Dungeons and Dragons in space with lasers. If you've seen Firefly, you know what we're about. And if you're watching the video, represent Firefly.
Cool. Van, you got anything to plug?
I do. I'm going to be performing with Kabir Sink at Club One Casino this August. Be sure to follow Club One Casino for all the info on that, and like Refried Comedy for all the best comedy shows in the Central Valley, yo.
All right, and Ben, anything for you?
Good night, folks.
We'll do better. This is The Kick. It's here on Longbox.FM, and we should be back next Monday night.
Yeah.
If not,
if I'm welcome,
I'll sit here solo and I'll go.
Am I welcome? Can we just because I don't want to cliffhang the guest.
Don't poke the bear.
Always leave one more.
It's The Kick here on Longbox.FM. I hope you woke up. You've been listening to The Kick on Longbox.FM. The opinions expressed on The Kick aren't necessarily those of staff, management, or sponsors. The Kick is written and produced by Chris Dowdy and is a presentation of Longbox.FM.